Yes, guys, welcome back to another week of the weekly roundup. It's week 19, and I'm with the man himself, Crypto Insight UK,
Hey
who's
guys,
he's recovering from COVID, so you're gonna have to bear with him today.
he is recovering. Tested negative this morning, but still feeling a bit under the weather. But we've got big crypto news, so we can't miss a week for the weekly
Yeah, we do.
roundup, especially this week, man. Jeez.
And I think like something obviously broke out today as well, which is what we're going to speak about right at the end. We'll keep the good stuff till last.
It's good
But before we
stuff.
get into that, it's the good stuff. We're gonna just cover just some other stories like we normally do, and just like we have been starting for the past, like I feel forever now. We've got inflation news for you because obviously UK's results came out and it's come back at 10.1%, the highest in 40 years, which is it's no good. Still no good. It doesn't really look like it's improving over here in the UK, even though the US and even here, Canada's dropped to 7.6 in July, down from 8.1.
Mhm.
UK is lagging behind. I think obviously we had the EU's inflation come out was at 9.1%. I think we were saying off camera before, but it's not. Everything's just kind of like staying, I think, flat at the moment. Nothing's really. I wouldn't say it's rising as aggressive as it was, but it's still not good to see.
Mm.
That's that news title right there.
Yeah,
Highest in 40 years. It's never good, is it?
it's not ideal, is it? We kind of lag behind what America's monetary policy is, so I presume that our inflation is going to lag behind theirs as well. So it's not ideal. It's not ideal to be living in the UK. 10.1% is a bit of a madness. I can't lie.
That's a lot.
I can't even say too much more to that. And I actually probably presume that it's more than that because energy bills are up like over 100%, aren't they, year over year? So it's just a bit of a matter.
Yeah, whether countries are fabricating their numbers, who knows the answer to that question. But still, we won't stay on it too long because I feel like we speak about inflation a lot, and we've got, like I said, we've got important news to cover today. But we'll just fly over this as well because we couldn't find a source in terms of where this has come from. But I've seen a few people tweet about it this morning, and it just comes. It's about Canada and their regulation on crypto, basically. And basically, they're saying if you're trading Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, and I think it's that Bitcoin Cash, I think it is,
Hmm.
um, you can basically trade unlimited amount you want. But if you're trading any other crypto beside that, you have a 30k net buy limit a year, basically,
Mm.
and it resets every year, which is really strange to come from Canada, of all countries, to be fair. But like we said, I don't know if there's any credibility to this news. But if it is true, it's really weird.
Yeah,
Like I think it's
it's definitely a weird one. And like you were saying, we couldn't find any decent sources on it. The only source we could find were all crypto pages. I was looking for something like official. We couldn't find that, but it
yeah,
said it's like they're basically SEC or their equivalent of the SEC with the people who are like upholding this. But Canada are quite ahead of the US in terms of like regulation. But it's just a weird thing to be putting out. Like, why are they limiting the amount of crypto people can buy or can't buy, and why is that not limited for like Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, ETH, and Bitcoin? It's a bit of an odd four. Like, they are like the initial,
that's
almost the initial four, obviously, including XRP. That they're quite big four, but it just doesn't really make too much sense. Don't really get it.
is it. Do you think? I don't know. The only thing I kind of think of is if we look at all this stuff to come out with, like Luna, for example, and all this stuff, like how you get certain altcoins which almost like rug pulls and
Mm.
like projects that don't work out. Maybe they're just trying to protect like their obviously consumers who trade. I'm not too sure. I think that's the only thing that kind of pops in my head when it comes to that. But even so, I think putting a limiting, restricting someone's investment if they made their choice to do it,
Mm.
they're still saying no, that's 30k. But like I said, there's no really credibility to this, so we could report next week and say like, oh, it was just a load of rubbish. But
Yeah, I don't know.
we'll
It's
keep you
weird
updated
because
with it but
they like
it's a
don't I
strange
don't know
one.
if they block people from like buying a certain amount of stocks per year. If your salary is a certain amount, they can still obviously depreciate to zero if people don't have the right research in the company or the company like is just struggling. I don't know if they ban people from gambling more than $30,000 a year. Like, why are they banning them from investing in crypto? It's a bit of a weird one.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. Not going to read too much into it because, like I said, if there's not a clear source in front of me, then I'm not going to like
Mm.
buy into all of it because it could just, like I said, be a load of rubbish and people are just trying to scare people for some whatever reason. But if it is true, it's weird and I don't like it. but but yeah, we'll move on anyway to to this now because we're going to start. I guess the next tab kind of relates to this as well, but the US MY Empire State Manufacturing Index in August came in at minus 31.3 versus the 11.1 previous. I think it was estimated it's coming out 5 this month as well. Now, we didn't know too much actually what this was, so I did a little bit of digging into it. It's basically like a survey which kind of like measures or gives a good indication in terms of like business productivity anyway in the US and like New York as well. But it's coming at minus 31. It came in like quite a big shock actually because obviously no one expected this to happen. They've estimated it's coming at 5. And but then a lot of people are also getting quite bullish on it because they're saying that obviously now the Fed have got even more reason to pivot because they've got data like this firing at them. And then also just to add to that here, we've got China's central bank cutting their policy interest rate for the first time since January to stimulate their fragile economy. And the reason I put these two tabs together is because obviously, look, we can see US's economy now following China's even more aggressively now. Both of them are going down. China have pivoted. Surely, like the US have to react to that because if you think about like the world as a whole, the US and the China are almost like fighting to be that number one power at the moment because China are they're like coming up as a new world order almost. But it makes you think. That's why I put them next to each other in terms of how the Fed are going to react to this. Basically, that's the story behind it in my eyes.
Yeah, and I don't know if you've covered on it, but the Empire State Manufacturing Index is basically like how much demand there is for like building houses and stuff within like New York State. Is that right? So along those lines.
I'm not too sure.
It's basically interest in like manufacturing of like creation of property. And obviously it's come in like way less than what's expected, so way less people want to like build houses. I think it might even be like important in terms of like people wanting to buy housing, and so obviously that's one of the things that like the Fed are taking into consideration, as well as like obviously CPI and this sort of stuff, is like the demand for housing in the US. Obviously, if people can't afford the housing as what it is now, then the prices have to come down. And if the prices are coming down, then and people aren't spending money, that's basically what the US don't want to happen is for everyone to stop spending money. That's the big problem. Like growth slows when the circulation of money or the velocity of money stops, and that's why China have started like stimulating as well or pivoting on their interest rates. So that's what America are going to... Well, hopefully America are going to have to do the same. This is basically what we've been saying. I've been betting on the fact that something's going to break, then the Fed are going to have to pivot on their monetary policy to try and stimulate the flow of capital again. And by pivoting, that could be anything from like stimulation, giving people money, or slowing down their interest rate hikes, which means that the end of tightening is coming, or it's the rear view mirror is the top of inflation, but also the top of the interest rates or the top of the tightening like policy, and that makes it easier or like more likely that risk on assets can run in that environment. So that's basically what we're looking for. And touching on top of that, actually, I watched a Kevin O'Leary interview the other day, and he basically said we've got midterms coming up. November 8th is the day for that to be finished, and he said that anytime you get a gridlock, so if you get one house in the Senate, if you get one of them flips, then that means there's a gridlock in like policy makers, and it looks like you're going to get both. He basically said that means for about 2 years, while the president's different to the House and the Senate won't be agreeing with each other, you're probably not going to pass any sort of legislation. He said in that environment, that's when equities have flourished in the past. So that's because whenever people introduce bills, they might be doing it at the best interest of the economy, but they always mess them up, is basically what he says. So when no one can mess anything up, it gives stocks and shares, and I presume crypto, because that's been kind of correlated, although it's not moved as fast as the stock markets have recently, so it might be breaking that correlation. It gives them all chance to run if like the government aren't coming through and messing things up. Like, because at the minute, like we've been talking about the last few weeks, we've just been saying like, inflation's a problem, inflation's a problem, inflation's a problem. They start to like raise interest rates, and then all of a sudden they print like another, or like launch like 2-3 bills that are gonna add to extra, like put extra money in supply, and probably like down the road add to inflation. So we might bring it down. Let's say the next few months they bring it down a bit, and then they're going to just like stimulate the economy again, and then obviously in a few months that will have an impact on the inflation figure at a small level. Obviously, hopefully the supply chain issues will be gone, but But yeah,
Yeah.
it's just a lot
Well,
like all coming together. It's basically what we've talked about. Like we speculated on this the last like 4 weeks, haven't we? Basically 5 weeks more
yeah,
maybe.
literally, and then news is just kind of coming out now to obviously everyone else. But we could kind of see this happening. You could people have seen this happening like months ago, almost
Mm,
um, like I think people are speaking about hearing that it's to do with some sort of manufacturing
hmm
thing in New York State, something like that. But regardless of what it is, because obviously the housing, as you know as well, is also going down the pan as well. Obviously, they've got an excess supply. The demand for mortgages, everything like that, is just plummeting at the moment. Not just in the US, obviously UK, it's happening as well. But like you said, we kind of lag behind them even in the housing
hmm
market as well. But we said it every week. There's got to come some sort of point where they've got to like almost flip around and just kind of try and do something instead of being quite reactionary to stats that come out. Basically, they need to try and preempt it. Basically, that's what I'm saying anyway. But
Yeah,
because they don't seem to be doing that.
they work off the policy that like if whatever the facts are is how we're going to act, like whatever the stats are from everything is how we're going to act. But like me and you have been saying, a lot of the things that are breaking were breaking like 4, 5, 6 weeks ago, but we're only getting the actual stats for them to come through now because they're all lagging indicators. People have got to collect the information, all this sort of stuff. And even like 5, 6 weeks ago, I was saying something's going to be broken. We just don't know what it is. And like things like the housing market now might be the things that come to surface. But then this is why I said that I think we'd have an equities rally, and I think we'll rally in crypto because the economy is literally in such a crap position. They can't let it just drop because it's just going to drop off the face of a cliff. So they've just got to like, if it's like you were saying the other day, you made this analogy to me. If it's like you're on a boat and there's a hole in the boat and you're like scooping the water out with a bucket, like that's basically what that's what the Fed are trying to do now. But they're just going to buy like a bigger bucket to try and scoop the water out faster. But by that analogy, it's just like print. They just got to. The only way they can save it is by like the actual cause of the problem, which just delays the problem by printing more money. That's all they can do. They have got no other choice. If they tighten or continue to tighten or don't react to figures like this, that their economy is just going to drop off the face of the earth. And they aren't going to let that happen because they're the global powerhouse. You can't just let the economy go to
They
zero.
can't do. This is what I'm saying, and this is literally why I put these two tabs together because obviously they're thinking about their own economy, but they're also thinking about people like China, aren't they? Because
Mm.
they don't want to see them just suddenly like just get their economy get better whilst they're still down in the pan. So
It's a,
whatever they're going to do, they need to start reacting because we're seeing China do it now as well. Obviously, they were doing stuff similar to the US as well, but they've just suddenly flipped the switch and gone completely other direction, just unexpectedly. No one preempted that. No
it's
one was kind of talking about China doing that, but they've just couldn't have done it.
It's a super tricky one for China too, though, because like if you think that they're like one of the biggest export nations in the world, it's in their best interest to have a weak currency because then every single thing they export, they basically make more money on. But if their currency is collapsing to a point where their economy is going to collapse, then they can't do that anymore either. So they've got to like they're all treading a fine line. Like it's, when we say like it's complicated, it's like it's so complex that like one person's doing one thing that affects them, but then them doing that affects them, which affects them back, and then like it's like a big game of blooming chess. Like
It's
it's
a massive game.
it's just crazy what's going on. I'm not going to get into that any further
Yes.
than that.
Yeah, yeah. I was going to say we could be here all day talking about that. Don't think that was actually supposed to be. We're going to keep that over there somewhere. But obviously, we normally bring James Falan in it towards the end of the video. But like I said, we've saved that special news for the end because that's going to probably be the majority of this like show anyway. But basically, we've got some sort of news on those videos that we were talking about a couple of weeks ago. Obviously, you know how the SEC were neither confirming or denying whether it was like SEC staff within these 7 videos, I think it was. But the defendant, obviously, it says here George Netburn granted Ripple defendant's motion to serve 2 subpoenas to authenticate the 7 SEC officials' public remarks ignored by the SEC claims. So it's another loss for the SEC, a bit of a dub, but it's just an unnecessary W because like it didn't have to go to this to make a decision on it because it was just something so petty and small, wasn't it? So, but
Yeah,
nonetheless, it's still a decision in Ripple's favour, so we can't really moan too much about it anyway. But
yeah, and I think
whatever's in these videos, whether it helped the case too much, I'm not too sure.
and Jeremy Hogan like made a point of this saying that like the judge like he's noted that the judges probably got pissed off by this for like the SEC wasting their time. The SEC are just wasting time at this point. Like, imagine just having a
Yeah,
video blatantly like you in the video, and you're like, oh yeah, I can't tell you if that's me or not.
yeah, it's just ridiculous, isn't it? But like, it's just they've shot themselves in the foot by doing that because, like you said, all that it's done is just kind of annoyed the judge a bit. So, and almost it's making a bit of a mockery of the case, almost I'd say. So
Yeah,
the obviously probably didn't appreciate that. But yeah, they've gonna have to sort that out anytime soon.
yeah,
I think that's another
and they called
change
her
for
out
them too.
in their recent filing. They filed to Judge Torres, and they called out Judge Netburn, saying that like she's
Mm.
getting the law wrong and that. And they called, instead of calling her Judge Netburn, they called her, and like the quote was like the magistrate judge, rather than saying Judge Netburn or
Really?
anything. Yeah,
What?
yeah, I know that's how
That
they refer to it.
surely,
And
sure, surely you want to keep the judge on your side instead of like insulting her, would
especially
you
when
not?
she's been working with Judge Torres for like 10 years as well. Like, if I was Judge Netburn, I'd be like, nah, these guys are pissing me off. And they've also, in
Yeah,
that same filing, I don't know if you've seen this or not, but they've started referring to Hinman. They've been referring to him as Director Hinman the whole time. They've started to refer to him as Citizen Hinman. Like,
citizen him
yeah, to
was
try and
taking the
like,
director title off
yeah,
him
to try
basically.
and like, yeah, just to
Yeah,
pretend that he's like just a citizen who's like near the case, like not actually part of the SEC, even though at the time of the speech he was director of corporate finance. They started to call him Citizen Hinman.
these guys are actually a joke, aren't they? Like, there's actually no other way to put it. Like, it's just they're just making a mockery of like the US legal system as a
Oh,
whole.
it's a
It's just
joke.
honestly like this case. I'm telling you now, it's going to go down in history. Like people will refer to this and have just whether whatever reason, just the amount of jokes that have come out of this case. But
Yeah, and actually
nonetheless,
one last thing on
go
that
on.
is that they also put in their last filing that goes to Netburn, I think that, or that goes to Torres, I can't remember. It's like a supplementary thing for their objection. They also put in that um, they would be willing to give the judge all the Hinman emails for in-camera review if they wanted it. And it's like, well, for this whole time you've
Yeah,
been
actually,
protecting them from the judges or whatever, and now you're like, oh, now it's being escalated. You're like, oh yeah, we can give you the emails if you want. Like, if there is or there isn't anything in these
yeah,
emails, like, if you're the judge, you're going to be surely getting vexed with the SEC. Like, you've been told to hand them over. You're saying, oh, they're not relevant, whatever. You've delayed for like a year, and then after a year, you're like, oh, you can have them if you want. Like,
yeah. It's just like I said, it's a big mockery, isn't it? It's like it's just a game to them. They're just trying to delay it for whatever reason, whatever purpose it is. They're just delaying things to suit them. I don't know why. Like we said, I think one of the main reasons we think it is because the longer they can keep this case going on for, because obviously this case is almost going to provide clarity for the whole crypto market in general. It's just so they can just keep slapping around lawsuits where they can get as much money from these crypto companies as they can before it gets
mm,
regulated. So that's what it is to me. And when stuff keeps coming out like that, it just kind of makes that more apparent. So because they're willing to obviously hand over the emails, what they've been doing for the past year, they've just been wasting time basically. So
yeah,
that's what makes me think. But something else came as well from James Filan is that the SEC filed its reply further to support its objection
hmm
to Judge Netborn ordering the emails basically as well. So just basically filed their reply to it. Just another step that obviously necessary step that they have to take in terms of the process of getting emails out to us and for the judge to make a decision on it.
yeah. And
But I
with
think
it,
the timeline with the emails is still the same.
yeah, and within that reply is the one where they've called Hinman Citizen Hinman and
This one here.
and Judge Netburn, magistrate judge, not Judge Netburn.
All right, okay. Oh, they annoy me. They just annoy me.
It's just
There's no way to put
ridiculous, isn't it? It's ridiculous.
it. Every week there's something new that comes out, and it just like we say, it just doesn't surprise me anymore what these guys are coming out with. I'm sure there'll be something else next week. Literally, I say this every week.
Yeah.
But moving away from that, we're going to start going into leading up to the big news, which is obviously at the end about Ripple, but we're going to start leaning towards the banks here now. And the ECB tweeted this today, basically just as a whole. So there's a document here as well. We've opened it. Go visit the tweet and go read this document as well, because why not? Do your own obviously research and all that kind of stuff. Just about legislation, and they're just basically saying that they want to try and regulate banks basically went for when crypto for them in order to get them ready for crypto basically. But there's obviously more to it. There's more in that document. It's not just that quite simple. But in whole, that's basically what it is. But yeah, obviously, European Central Bank are getting people ready, getting legislations in place. It's leading up to one thing, whether you like it or not.
And
Legislation's coming in now as well. This is what we've been calling for.
yeah, exactly.
Go
Yeah.
on.
And this morning I made a TikTok. I don't know if you've seen it or not, guys, or Ampav, about the ECB. All of a sudden, the ECB have put out a statement saying that the only way to continue with our financial future is to have central bank digital currencies, which like links into this and kind of links into like the next things that we're going to talk about, doesn't it?
Yeah, it all leads to this basically. Like, we're obviously still directing it towards Ripple over like other cryptocurrencies, but we're talking about the whole crypto space as a whole, as a whole. But no, HSBC here. This specific paragraph is what we want to speak about because they're basically talking about DLT, right? And obviously, within this document from HSBC, they've specifically referenced Ripple and Ripple's XRP to use DLT technology, which to me is just like, for all the people that hate on XRP for whatever reason it is, when you've got a bank, one of the biggest banks in the UK, and just generally a big bank anyway, talking about DLT technology and how it can like benefit them, and then they start to specifically reference XRP and Ripple, how can you still be in that camp of like, oh, no bank's going to use it, nothing's going to happen here with it, it's a shit coin, this, that, and the other? Like, honestly, it just, I don't get it.
It's embarrassing, isn't it? Like, it's embarrassing because people want to protect their networks so much that they just have their eyes closed to everything else. And then there's just like, there'll be just more conspiracy that'll come out. Oh yeah, it's just like, not this, it's not this. But they literally, like, you can see it right there. Ripple's XRP ledger provides real-time cross-border payment settlements. Like, what more do you need? On the HSBC payments section on their site, it's what it says. It literally says XRP ledger right there. Like, how can you deny that? It's not deniable. But anyway, that also links in with what I think I talked about maybe in the first few episodes of the weekly roundup, where we talked about that the Bank of England were exploring distributed ledger technology for sovereign debt. We've talked about that before. And if one of the big banks within England are talking about Ripple and XRP ledger, you just got to hope. And this is where some conspiracy comes in, fair enough. You've just got to hope that it is Ripple's XRP ledger that take on the sovereign debt. That's government bonds, by the way. And like if they get government bonds and derivatives, it's like, if you get it worldwide, it's like a quadrillion dollars. But if you just get it in the UK, I don't know exactly what the market cap of it is.
Still a lot.
But yeah, it's just a lot of dough.
It's a lot of money to jump on that ledger. But no, I mean, we'll link this obviously HSBC with two other big names basically supporting XRP. So we had obviously we had Wells Fargo come out, and then now we have Goldman Sachs basically stating that XRP is a currency, and they also talk about how it fixes a lot of problems with foreign exchange, all that kind of malarkey. But two big names, you couple that with the HSBC news that we've just reported on there, and then you also got that open twice. Then you get to the big news here. Yeah, this is why this is all at the end, because it's all to do with banks, and banks basically all either referring to Ripple or, like we see here, actually partnering and using Ripple's DLT. This is mad. This is crazy.
Huge. Because it's not only are these using like RippleNet, they're literally there, like it says, using ODL, utilizing XRP, the digital asset for payments, to settle across border. This is Brazil. This is in Brazil, Travelex Bank, approved by the Central Bank of Brazil to operate exclusively in foreign exchange. All there in black and white, have a read, suck it up, baby, here we go.
This is a madness. This is a madness.
Madness.
The tweet that came out, and obviously the main thing that kind of strikes me is that it's approved by Brazil's central bank. It's not just like a random company this time. It's a bank that's been approved by Brazil's central bank. They've got their approval. They're obviously regulated, all that kind of good stuff. And they've given the green light to use Ripple's DLT here for all they're obviously exclusive for Brazil's foreign exchange. And there's something, I've got what figure it was, like 700 million, billion, something like that. Billion, a lot. Yeah. something like that. Some ridiculous amounts of money here talking about, and it's not just some small country. Obviously, we know Brazil are really proactive in the crypto space in general, but what a country to jump into, and what a bank to like partner up with. Obviously, these guys are actually based in London as well, so you can kind of make that link as well if you want to. It's up to you if you want to make that link, whether they'll follow suit here as well, do it all over. I think they operate in 30 different countries, so it's not just a small bank; it's a pretty big
It's
personal bank here as well.
It's crazy, and they literally they're telling you it's ODL and they're settling in XRP, so no one can be like, oh yeah, it's Ripple, it's not XRP. It is literally XRP, ODL on demand liquidity, and they're utilizing XRP. It's right there, guys, for everyone to read. They're utilizing XRP to settle transactions in the FX market, which is foreign exchange, which is just currency to currency. What else can you say? Like,
This is
it's a
this
flipping
is this
big
is
one.
what I know. This is XRP. This is exactly why we invest in it, because it solves problems like obviously which we always speak about here. And now we've got a bank jumping in and using it. One of the first like major banks to properly jump into it and use their technology. And like literally, like we say, I literally say this every single week, no matter what we're speaking about. It just takes one big bank to get involved, and then other people will get onto the benefits. They'll see the benefits, they'll see how they're using it, etc. They almost use these guys as a dummy, and then they will then jump on it as well. So like I guarantee you, by the end of this year, you will have a few banks, maybe
Yeah,
several banks. Who knows?
there's a few things about that, isn't there? There's like one, like they're going to see what happens. That all these countries already use it, all these corridors, smaller banks. Then if they can see, oh, okay, like a big bank's using it and it looks good. Two things about that are, one is, okay, it looks good, so we'll try it now. But the other thing is, if they don't try it fast, they can't compete. Like, what can you do to compete with that? And then the second thing, and the most important thing for me, is like, Brazil obviously don't give a crap what the SEC think of XRP. I talked about this on my TikTok today. The
No,
SEC could think XRP is classified as a flipping crayon, and Brazil is still going to use it to make cross-border transactions because it's cheaper for their customers. It doesn't matter what the SEC think. It's ridiculous what's going on in America. This is my point about like legislation in general. Who cares genuinely what category you put this like crypto like under? So long as you can just use it as the asset it was invented to be used, like the way it was invented to be used. Like all these countries are already doing it. Brazil are a huge country financially. What are you going to do in America? This company, Ripple, who have the escrow of XRP, are sitting inside your country, and you've got one regulator who's doing the job of the government. The government probably put a quota on them to try and make a certain amount of money per year to like bring into the government. But they're literally stifling innovation in your country. And then your company has had to go around other countries in the world, and they're like having technological advances faster than your country because you've got a legislator in your country who's just, for whatever reason, good, bad, like nefarious, whatever, like maybe it's just is what it is, they're trying to fill their quota. But for whatever reason, they're stifling that innovation in your country, and you cannot compete with the foreign exchange that they're providing. And they're also taking away liquidity and volume from the US dollar. Like, how can someone above the SEC, Congress, even, like, it doesn't take a genius to work it out. Like, we could bloody see it. So what the hell are they playing at? Just, it blows my mind.
this exactly. And I'm pretty sure we've had this exact same conversation on like the one of the earlier weeks that we're talking about. Like, if we can see it, surely someone with half a brain cell who have some sort of power in whether they are in like US Congress, surely they can see this and they can see what the SEC are doing, and surely it's in their best interest to get rid of this case so they can start using and taking advantage of obviously of Ripple using their technology to keep up with like all these countries that are overtaking them as we speak. Not to mention obviously they've all got their own problems, but this obviously can help a lot of their problems anyway. So like
Yeah,
you said, it's just stifling innovation, and it's just
the
like I
big
don't, it
issue
baffles me to.
the big issue they've got is that, like, at some point, if you're Ripple, if you're Brad Gardenhouse and you're Ripple and you're sitting on all this XRP and you're getting sued by the SEC for genuinely no reason that we can find yet, anyway, like, there's obviously a reason. They're saying that it's unregistered security, but they haven't got the facts for it. They keep delaying for whatever reason because they want to do whatever in their own agenda. At some point, if you're Ripple, you just go, yeah, okay, you are the biggest economy in the world, but fuck this. Like, we're going across border to going to go and sit in Singapore or the UK who actually want to work with us, because we've already got all these partnerships around the world. And then how much of a problem is that for the USA going to be? Like, yeah, the USA could be like, oh yeah, we're not going to use Ripple in this country. Okay, it will stunt growth of XRP and Ripple, but it won't stop it. They're still going to grow it everywhere else, and the US are just going to lose like volume from the US dollar, because all those payment corridors
Yeah.
that were being paid for in the US dollar are all of a sudden going to be being paid for in XRP. And what are the US going to do then? Oh yeah, don't use that. Don't use that thing that's like slower and faster. Use our dollar because we've got it. Like, what?
Yeah.
What are you doing to yourself?
Well, this is what I mean. Obviously, this clip's been around for a couple of months. From when Brad was talking about to someone in an interview, he was basically saying, obviously, I think we reported on it in the weekly roundup, but he was basically saying, obviously, Ripple are acting as if they've basically lost the lawsuit. Like, they're basically just cracking on in different countries and working with different banks or whoever they're working with, making different partnerships here outside of the US, and they're still conducting their day-to-day business. So, like, whether obviously whatever happens with the case, like, it's not going to be the end of Ripple full stop, because and people don't seem to understand that as well. People seem to think that, oh, if the US don't like them, say, worst comes to worst and Ripple do actually lose this lawsuit, they're still going to make partnerships with all the banks around it. They've just done it with Brazil right now. Who's to say they're not going to do it with another big, massive country who are pro crypto?
Yeah,
Like, do you know what I mean?
That's such a good point, because that's exactly the point that you're making there. It's like so important, because even if they do lose the suit, it'll probably be a positive effect on XRP, because at the minute everyone's just like, if they lose the suit, they're going to get classified as something. Like, maybe they get classified as security in the US. Everywhere else it's still not a security, and who knows what that might mean. That might mean that they just have to register in specific places, or sell it under a specific name, or sell it over the counter, or sell it through like specific brokers. There will come legislation around what a crypto security is, even if they lose a lawsuit, which I know you don't. We speculate they aren't going to lose, but even if they do, it'll actually be positive for XRP, and that's something that people don't get. They think that like Ripple lose the lawsuit about XRP, and XRP disappears. It's just not going to happen. It will probably be positive if they lose. It's just more positive if they win.
This is what I mean. If you like the way I'd thought today, if you kind of got someone now in the room with you and like they don't really know too much about crypto or anything about the financial markets, and you explain to them what's going on between Ripple and the SEC, and you explained it, look, we've got HSBC referring to it, you've got Bank of England speaking about it, you've got a bank in Brazil now using it, who are obviously been approved by their own central bank. You've got Wells Fargo, Goldman Sachs saying it's a currency. Oh yeah, but you've got the SEC who are suing them for whatever reason, and they actually can't use it. It's been taken off exchanges in the US. They're stifling innovation. Surely they're going to think they're even from someone who doesn't understand crypto, they're going to surely side with Ripple and SEC. Do you know what I mean? If you pile all the facts up like that, even what we just spoke about today, that's enough for and the average Joe to think that, okay, look, what the US and SEC do, they're just shooting themselves in the foot, surely.
Exactly. So exactly that, and that shows you though how lost like a lot of the crypto space is, especially people who've been here for a while, because they don't even look at these facts. They just think, oh, something about XRP, it's probably fake, or like, I don't even know what people think. Like, I don't even know if they do think about it. I think they just think like, oh, I don't like XRP, so I don't care what happens. That's literally it. Like, oh yeah, okay, cool. They got a partnership with Bloomin' Bank of America. Yeah, who cares? Don't like them.
This is what I mean. I like people tweeting today. A lot of people saying, "Oh, XRP won't reach a bank." I would love to see what those guys are saying to this Brazil partnership. Then, so what's happening now? Then, how do you explain this? Like, what's your next like argument against XRP? And it's not like I say this to you all the time, but it shouldn't be like XRP versus Bitcoin. Like in my eyes, I didn't see it like that anyway. Like you should just be embracing crypto as a market as a whole for whatever utility they serve. You should just be embracing it and supporting each other because we're all fighting for the same goal.
Yeah,
but
it's just blind
when it comes to that, I've got a lot of things to say to them. I've got a lot of arguments to kind of like bring up to them. I'd love to see what they say to this as well. I would love to see what they're saying about it.
So would I, and it's just kind of blind hate. Like in the CBDC video that I talked about earlier, like I had to stress that like whether you like it or not, this is going to CBDCs, but it's kind of along the same point. Whether you like it or not, it's happening. So if you morally think CBDCs are right or wrong, it doesn't really matter because they're going to happen. So my point is, yeah, okay, people invest in Bitcoin to try and be away from the financial system, and they don't want CBDCs to happen, so they kind of hedge on Bitcoin as like as as a like this or that. But if that's also accepting the fact that CBDCs are going to happen. So even people who buy Bitcoin accept that CBDCs are coming. So if you know they're coming, why not invest in something that you speculate is going to help their implementation, that you can then profit from, and then use that money to do whatever you want. And that's kind of the point with XRP. People are like, oh yeah, don't use it because it's a banker's coin. Well, if it's a banker's coin, all the banks have all the money, and they're going to use XRP. Like, you're not just shooting yourself in the... You can even acknowledge the fact that banks are going to use it and that they are using it. And if you use a statement like that, but you're still not going to invest into it because it's working with the banks and you came here to be a libertarian. Like, if you invest into anything in the space, by that, just by putting your money in, you're a speculator and investor. You're not a libertarian. Otherwise, you just wouldn't put money into things. So if you're going to put your money in, put it into something where you actually can see and admit that it's going somewhere. Like Bitcoin, we speculate might go somewhere, and it is a hedge against the like banks or the centralized like financial system, whatever you might think about Bitcoin. I like Bitcoin, and I will buy some Bitcoin at some point. But if you can understand and see, whether you like it or not, that XRP is being utilized, there's no other crypto that's doing anything like this. There is nothing. Not that's doing anything like, yeah, okay, you can say, oh yeah, Bitcoin's more of a liquid asset. There's more market cap in Bitcoin. Yes, there is, but what is it being used for? Nothing. It's like gold. Gold's great asset. It's worth $10 trillion, but it isn't being used for anything. XRP is actually being used. This is like the next step in crypto where people are using it to solve like real world problems, and that is happening. Like it's literally right there, and that's just,
This is what I mean.
It just frustrates me sometimes.
I know, but like people who watch this weekly roundup, and if this week's episode's not giving you enough information to support that, every week, like how many episodes are on? We're on 19 weeks, and I'd say like out of those 19, 16 or maybe 15 of those weeks, we've provided new bullish news in regards to Ripple/XRP. Okay, some of it might be speculation, granted, but a lot of it's factual. A lot of it's like partnerships behind the scenes. Them, like this, for example, and loads of other news. Go back and watch our episodes. So like, for someone to sit back and say all that about it boggles my mind. But obviously, everyone's got their own opinion,
Yeah.
and we'll just let them have it, and they just won't profit from it. So